Welcome back to Global Business Report, Arise News. Kentucky Fried Chicken, an American fast food restaurant chain, announced that it's run out of potatoes, fries, even as local farmers have struggled with an oversupply of the produce. In a tweet, the fast food restaurant said following increased demand for their fries over the festive season, the franchise had run out of fries. KFC does not use locally produced potatoes. Now, this is in Kenya, by the way, but instead imports them from Egypt, South Africa, and so on. Potatoes are the second highest, most consumed crop after maize in Kenya. The quantity of potatoes decreased to 1.9 million bags last year from 2 million bags in 2019, according to official data. So here to talk to us more about that is Chief Executive Officer of Abojani Investment, Robert Ochieng, who I believe is joining us from Nairobi. You're welcome. Good afternoon to you, Robert. Thanks for joining us. So how did you guys get here to where we have potato shortages for fast food chains in Kenya?
I think the issue occurred this week when KFC notified the public. It was through the local news outlets that they had run out of potato. But basically, it is because of the global supply chain issues. But since they got into Kenya, they've always imported potato from outside Kenya. And I think the news came out and everyone just went into it. And it has now become a very, very big issue. And it has brought in a lot of discussions whereby many Kenyans, especially online, are of the view that they should be sourcing for the potatoes locally. Okay,
so why can't local potato supplies be used for KFC chips? That local supplies in Kenya, that is.
Yes, so there are different angles when you look at the issue of potato. Of course, first of all, if you look at it from a business point of view, you'd want to look at KFC as a franchise, and you know that franchise, they usually have standards on how they operate, from sourcing of materials and what they use. So that from a business point of view, they would have some decisions that would dictate that. And I think that was the key driver of them sourcing from outside Kenya. Then when you look at it from a political point of view, you'd want also companies that are operating in Kenya to source things locally so that it leads to creation of more job opportunities and growing the GDP. So I think there just need to be a balance to be looked at to ensure that now KFC can work with the government and local farmers to be able to match those standards.
Okay, thank you for that explanation there, because there's been quite a bit of backlash there with lots of people saying that they should be able to source these potatoes from local farmers. But what's your overview of Kenya's agri sector? Is it creating enough jobs? So what's your sense there of how things are working in Kenya's agricultural sector?
Yeah, I think what is there with the agricultural sector is that it has been the key sector when you look at it from a historical point of view, because until recently, many as 9 million people, with 56% of those working full-time. But the gap has been that there are a lot of changes from a global point of view, from a climate change point of view, and we've not really been keen on production and looking at the sector from a value chain point of view and providing the necessary support. So if you look at awareness and just guiding farmers, so that has not been really focused on. And even the banking sector, they lend less than 5% of their loan book is lent to the agriculture sector, despite the fact that from several analyses that have been done, it contributes between 25%, 40% of our GDP, and it employs very, very many people. So I think there's been a gap in terms of focused support. So what we are seeing now, we have a lot of reactions, but at the end of the day, if you look at it from a first principle point of view, you want to look at the whole value chain from creating awareness, looking at production, to ensure that even if you are to look at the income that a farmer gets from farming, if you divide it by 12, is it really worth it? And are the businesses profit making or loss making? So that has not been looked at extensively, and so that leaves a lot of gap, because without data and concrete information, it will just be a lot of sentiments and emotions, and that really doesn't help from a long-term point of view. So I think there's need for a lot of focus to be put there, since agriculture provides a lot of opportunities from an employment point of view and even growing our GDP and feeding many Kenyans, both in the rural and urban places.
All right, thank you for that. I mean, Kenya's horticulture sector is pretty successful as far as exports. Also, what are the ways to confront the supply chain issues in food supplies? So what needs to be done there?
Yes, I think locally, when you look at it from a value chain point of view, especially from a commercial point of view, because again, only commerce is sustainable. So you can talk about many things to be done. And if you look at it from a commerce point of view, what can really help first is to ensure that productivity is right? So like when you have a man that you want to grow some maize or potato in, how much would you get from it? And is it sustainable? What are the inputs that you're going to put there? And what are the outputs? Are you going to have excess? And is that scalable? So that is very, very important for us to grow the sector so that it can become more reliable and employ many people. So just looking at that and providing support at different layers, then after that now you work on ensuring that the farm produce are able to reach people who are going to consume them locally and externally. So there are two angles in that supply chain, because even if you are to fix supply chain, we still have production issues. So maybe people see that the supply chain and the layers are expensive, and in the long run, they're getting very little money. But that comes from very low production. So I think to solve that supply chain issues is first to ensure that you have production that can be profitable, and now you make sure that there's a market layers of ensuring that there's the connection of supply and demand, and ensuring that there's very little wastage from the farm produce.
All right, thank you for that. So to piggyback off that, can Kenya's agri sector take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area agreement?
Yes, we can. And the African Continental Free Trade Area is also something that is puzzling to me if I look at it from an analyst point of view, because we want to talk about it as something that is futuristic. But there are very simple things like sending money from here to Tanzania to Uganda. It is still a challenge, even making calls. And if you look at the infrastructure projects, we have big visions, but you'd still hear some countries that are collaborating with others, and it doesn't really come out because we need the railway running, we need staff working. So those layers, we still have issues, but there's a big opportunity because like Kenya connects most countries in the East and Central Africa. So there's that opportunity, and just ensuring that first the layers. So I'm really big on first principles, as much as we have the visions, but the farm produce won't be easily moved around if you've not built the transport corridors. So for that reason, you'll find that farmers are biased on exporting outside Africa through maybe air traffic and stuff like that. So I think we really need to look at the little thing that you can do to get started. I know there's a lot of trade and activities when you look at Kenya and Uganda, and also Kenya and Tanzania. But now to reach other African countries, I believe the transport corridors need to be worked on, and that would really provide a big opportunity for our local farmers.
Fantastic stuff. Robert Ochieng, CEO of Abojani Investments, thank you so much for joining us to talk about agriculture in Kenya, the potato shortage faced by KFC Kenya, and of course taking advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Much appreciated to you from Nairobi. All right.